So here we are, back in Australia. It has been about 7 years and it feels so good to be back. Leaving today, unfortunately, leaving the farm, going up north, but such a pleasure to be back. Really missed it. I figured out how to make exactly as much money as I need from anywhere in the world. And I don't say that to brag, I say that because it took me a very long time to figure out exactly how to do that. And I would have liked, when I'd started, for someone to tell me some of the things that I'm going to tell you today. So I'm going to tell you what I landed on and how I got there. I'm currently here in Australia, and I thought this would be the best place to start because I was last here 7 years ago, and a lot of things have changed since then. So 7 years ago, I came out here after I'd finished school in the UK. I'd always been the adventurous type. At the end of my school career, I was just so ready to get out of the UK, get out of the country, and start exploring the world, find my freedom. So what I did was I came out here and I worked on the farm, and in between periods of working on the farm I would use that money to pay to go off further afield and do more exciting adventures around the world. I did all kinds of incredible stuff, really amazing time of my life. I went out to Tahiti, I went surfing, I went to New Zealand, I went to Tasmania, I went to Mexico, all this incredible stuff. But always I would come back to the farm between times and work to make money to fund further adventures like the ones I just described. So eventually this time came to an end and I went back to the UK, and honestly, for lack of a better idea, I ended up going to university, and then I ended up, having been to university, trying to find a job. And I don't want to make this a full end-to-end life story, but basically the mission that I landed on during my time in Australia and my time traveling the world was, I need to find a way that I can make money from anywhere in the world and make good money from anywhere in the world to fund this lifestyle. Because although I was having an incredible time, I was constantly having to go back and fill up the piggy bank again, as it were, to pay for all this fun stuff that I was doing, all this living that I was doing. So it was a great work-life balance, if you want to put it that way, but I was looking for something a little bit more freeing. And I tried loads of stuff. So my first job or first venture after university was trading, right? Buying and selling financial instruments. I landed on crypto, did that for a long time, but soon realized that wasn't necessarily a viable way to pay the bills reliably, to reliably put money in my bank account every single month. Made money trading, still do, but not an income stream. I'm sure you've heard that before. So then I got down the rabbit hole of finding real jobs, and I bounced around a few of those using some of my crypto experience. And what I was doing in many of these jobs was basically sales roles. So I would go to a client, usually B2B, right? So I would go to another business that the business I worked for could service and try to sell them the services of that company that I worked for. And that was a great grounding in what I think is probably the most important business skill that anyone can learn. But the opportunity vehicle wasn't there. So I was in 9 to 5 employment, which in some roles turned into 8 to 7 to 9 to 10 p.m. employment, which was just terrible for obvious reasons. I was on a range of different contracts which really weren't rewarding me for the efforts that I was putting in. One of these roles had capped commission, and I remember that just baffled me, right? So at a certain point, if I've made all of the commission I could make for that month, I've done everything I was supposed to do, but I've reached the commission cap, then what? What am I supposed to do? Do I still go to work, or what happens at that point? So that frustrated me a lot in particular. I also tried a load of different online business models, or offline business models too, right? Just to name a few. I tried rent-to-rent arbitrage. The idea being you rent a property from somebody and then you sublet it to other tenants. Didn't really get off the ground with that one, to be honest, but I'm proud of the fact that at least I was out there trying to make it work, right? I was making calls, I was sending emails, I was getting in touch with people, I was using some of that basic grounding in sales experience to manifest my own ideas into the world. Turned out that idea wasn't great. I tried some other stuff too. I tried social media marketing as an agency model. Did manage to sign some clients, did manage to make some money there, but again, not really where my area of expertise lied. But once again, the grounding in sales let me execute on that idea quickly because I knew what it actually took to go out to the market, solve people's problems, talk to them about their problems, talk to them about how you can solve those problems, and then eventually close them and bring them on to your idea or service if it was a fit. I then tried doing sales as a service, but very specifically the outreach portion of that. So throughout these jobs, I worked for a number of big companies, a number of small companies as well, and the common theme throughout all of those was volume, right? So we're spending a lot of time reaching out to people, just a numbers game. Get in as many inboxes as you possibly can. So I took that idea to the wider market, and I did have slightly more success with that than with some of the previous business models that I mentioned. And it was through doing this actually that I met one particular client who had originally signed to do the service that I just described. A lot of people would ask me to get on the sales calls, and at the time I had this limiting belief that if I was going to start getting on sales calls for people that I was running this outreach for, that would be a massive limit on my time and I couldn't focus on growing the business that I wanted to grow. But I think it was potentially a quiet month, right? A low income month, and I thought, sod it, we'll get on these sales calls. And that was the moment that everything changed for me. This completely opened my mind to what was possible and to the opportunity at stake here. And so now, here we are, fast forward 7 years, and I've still got certain other business ventures on the go. But the thing that has kept money in my pocket consistently, month in, month out, has been closing deals for other people's businesses online. That gives me a steady income stream from literally anywhere in the world, and it means that my time is leveraged. So if I was to go back to myself 7 years ago, I could basically cut the line on figuring this stuff out. And that's really why I'm making this video, because I know there's someone out there watching, and I know there is for sure because I've spoken to people in real life about this, who just don't understand how big of an opportunity lies outside the bounds of the traditional 9-to-5 path, right? Where you go to university, or maybe you don't, but you get into this 9-to-5, grind your way to the top mindset. And it doesn't work. That's the unfortunate thing. It's so limited in how far you can actually go with that. And if you can go far with that, the time horizon is so far delayed versus what exists in the online space. So let me just break down the opportunity to you as I see it right now. The online business space is absolutely exploding right now. A perfect example of this, as I'm sure you will have noticed, everyone's an influencer these days. Everyone's selling some sort of product online via their social media. I think a lot of people would be very surprised to learn how much money some of these guys are making out of those businesses. And I think they'd also be very surprised to learn how most of these guys aren't just one-man bands at a certain point. And they will employ they will pay you on a results basis, heavy results, i.e. commission basis, to close incoming deals for them, right? Close people who are interested in their product, get on a call with them, get on a direct messaging thread with them, break down their problems, understand their problems, offer the solution to fit, and close the deal. That's the opportunity in a nutshell. But what this does is it essentially lets you completely skip the line in terms of earning potential. Right? The money that exists there is so much greater in terms of what you can capture from that opportunity than you're ever going to make in 9-to-5 employment, even with a commission structure. I mentioned capped commission structure earlier. I've worked for some big tech companies on sales, and always it's the same story, right? Everyone knows someone who maybe back 10 years ago made a 250 grand month or something in commission. I've actually heard that same story repeated via multiple different employers in the same industry, by the way. We can get into that again another day. But essentially your earning potential is very, very limited for these big traditional companies, right? Everyone knows the average salary in the UK at the moment, I believe, is about £30,000 a year. And that average bracket goes up to age 30. So there's this mindset of what a traditional business can actually pay you out of university. And it might be ironic, perhaps, to some people to hear that bigger companies will actually tend to pay you less than these small lean online profitable business models. But that's the case. That's the reality of the situation. And there's more and more and more of these popping up every single day. So just to put some numbers on it for you, because I think that helps make this more tangible to you. Info products online, right? Courses, coaching, etc., etc. People are selling these anywhere between $2,000 and $10,000 a month. It's very, very common in that space. And you can capitalize on that anywhere between 5 and 20% commission per sale. So you run the quick maths on that. And also bear in mind the fact that typically in these setups, you're not going to be just doing this for one person, right? Of course, there's only so many hours in the day, but this gives you an option to basically scale alongside other online business models without starting the business yourself. That's the best part of all of this. So I mentioned earlier how I tried all sorts of different internet business models. But the most beautiful thing about this opportunity is you don't actually have to try them yourself in order to make money from them. You can pick the outlier successful businesses, come in, help them out, bring them massive value by what you're doing, and bring in massive value yourself in reward for that. And that's really the opportunity. So the other thing I want to say is this is a lot more accessible to you watching this right now than you think it is. Okay, you don't have to be Jordan Belfort to come in to a successful online business and start closing deals for them. And this was another sort of limiting belief I had actually going into my first sales roles. Okay, they were more corporate, right? It was for a startup, the very first one. But in any case, I had this hang up in my mind about what a sales guy was. Okay, this sort of sleazy character that tries to subversively convince someone to part with money for something that they don't really want. Not the case at all, right? Just to give you this isn't a sales lesson, but just to give you the long and the short of it. Basically, what you're doing is inquiring, asking questions, finding out about people's problems, and then offering solutions. That and the mindset of being able to get over the hump that a lot of people have in terms of actually asking for the close once that's done. But as long as you have basic communication skills, this can 100% be learned, and it can be learned very, very quickly. And the other fantastic thing about this is if you are interested in starting an online business, I think a lot of people say they're interested in starting an online business or starting a business of their own, but what they really want is the freedom to live life on their own terms, right? What they really want when you boil it down is to make good money and not be tied down to a particular location or tied down to someone else's schedule. And remote sales gives you that, but that sales skill is absolutely fundamental to any business. So if you're interested in down the line starting your own business, believe me, because I've done it, you're going to spend so much of your time in 99% of the ventures you could conceivably start selling. That's why it makes absolutely perfect sense to start honing that skill early. But there we go. That is, in a nutshell, what I do. That's the opportunity that I see. And this opportunity, this space, is growing massively day by day, particularly right now. Okay, it's absolutely exploding right now. So much opportunity out there. And that would be my recommendation to myself 7 years ago. Skip the queue, right? Ignore all the nonsense, all the shiny objects. Just learn basic sales skills and get yourself as soon as possible in a position where you can sell someone else's products and services online. That's all I've got for you right now. Plenty more to come. Catch you in the next one. Goodbye.